Hey guys, happy Saturday. Hope you all are enjoying your weekend. In today's video, I will be doing a deep dive analysis, sharing with you the overall updates of the Bitcoin market. I'll be covering technical analysis predictions of Bitcoin, what I'm thinking the price will get up to in 2025, and why these five HODL companies are really going to follow. Some are going to have even more breakout opportunities as Bitcoin reaches all-time high. Now, most of you are wondering, is now a time to buy, sell, or hold Bitcoin along with these HODL companies? We'll talk about all of my assessments with the predictions on where the price will be headed. But now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate you hitting a like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. Let's first off talk about a post from HODL 15 Capital. When you think about it, 450 Bitcoins are mined per day. That equates to 43 million in new supply. But when you look at the last couple of days in the month of April and May, how much Bitcoin is being bought up in May? $674 million have been, going into Bitcoin ETFs. But when you think about the amount of Bitcoins mined per day, there's about 450 Bitcoin blocks available, 43 million, but you see what's being bought right now, 674 million. That's only going to ramp up as we head into the month of May onward. So there's going to be a big supply shock just based on the anomaly, this big disparity we see with the amount of Bitcoins produced every day versus what's available being purchased by the financial institutions. And let's take a look at this posting, just with the overall daily chart. I'll share this with you as well, but overall, ETF holdings has increased by 32,521 Bitcoin in April. Financial institutions are buying up Bitcoin very fast. ETFs hodl a record of 1,337,000 Bitcoin worth $128 billion. ETFs now hold 6.4% of all Bitcoins that will ever exist. Now, the good news is that the USA dominates with 87% of the share. So let's take a look at this table. So when we look at the top HODL, we see IBIT, led by BlackRock. Fidelity is also loading up, ARC 21, Bitwise. All of these ETFs are hodling up. I mean, just look at the number increase as of end of April, 604,000. Fidelity, close to 200,000. Grayscale, 190,000. So when you look at all of these US ETFs, United States owns most of the Bitcoin when it comes to financial institutions following that game theory. But when you look at total global ETFs around like Canada, Germany, Australia, Hong Kong, Switzerland, not so much. I mean, when you compare the US amount of ETFs, 1.1 million versus 1.3 million, the United States is just hogging up most of the Bitcoin, which is a good thing, on top of what we're seeing with the top 75 HODLs. So when you look at the top five companies, or even like top eight, these are all American based. So you see a lot of US based companies that are buying up Bitcoin. We know about strategy, at 553,000, trying to get close to the amount that BlackRock has. Mara is going to soon break through that 50,000. And we have 21 Capital CEP XXI, now at like 31,500 Bitcoin, through Tether, SoftBank, and Bitfinex. But now when we think about just with the conversion to capital from CEP to XXI, it's going to go up to 42,000. So like right behind Mara. And we have Riot, soon to, you know, at the production numbers to end of April, this will soon get to 20,000. CleanSpark at, close to 12,000. So obviously these top five HODL companies, as Bitcoin price ramps up significantly in 2025, I'll go through the price predictions. I think these companies are really gonna have a banana zone run. Let's take a look at this post from Supply Shock. If we get to 5% of the supply, Bitcoin will probably go to 1 million a coin, says Sailor. 84 billion Bitcoin plan means 5% of the supply, 1 million a Bitcoin, and 10,000 share for strategy. No need to overthink it. So definitely bullish news with supply shocks. And I will be playing this video where Sailor talks about, gaining the 5% supply of Bitcoin. And at that point, Bitcoin price will go up to 1 million a coin. Let's take a look at this posting from Robert Samuels. So proud to see Sailor recognize Mara as a notable existing Bitcoin treasury company. I think he knows what he's talking about. So, the time when Mara announced, leveraging the strategy of buying Bitcoin, that's where, you know, um, Sailor acknowledged Mara for following the Bitcoin standard. Also, with 21 doing the same, Sailor also acknowledged 21 for doing so, as well as Riot platforms when Riot announced, the purchase of Bitcoin following the Bitcoin standard. So definitely with companies being new entrants and existing Bitcoin treasury companies buying Bitcoin and mining Bitcoin, this is only going to have the price for Bitcoin appreciate. Let's take a look at this visual from 21, just with Tether, supporting the company, Bitcoin acquisition cycle. This is how it works. So Tether owns equity in XXI Capital, 43% at closing, finances XXI via convertible debt, which is about 385 million through the convertible debt and 200 million capital financing through PIPE investments. So that will be used for pre-purchases of Bitcoin before closing, selling to XXI at the cost. And at that point, that releases collateral to Tether based on price triggers that will recirculate to USDT from equity debt and Bitcoin sales. At that point, that will allow for XXI Capital to acquire Bitcoin controlled by Tether. So that cycle will just continue and uh, 21 will continue to grow its HODL amount. Let's take a look at this posting from Johnny Signals. So how full-blown manias happen. So Riot, air pocket to cluster, consolidate and clear, air pocket to cluster, consolidate to clear, all out panic bid mania. That's how tops happen. Riot is one of the greatest energy plays in the world. So definitely where we see this low point, uh, with the basement low, we're definitely going to see some opportunity for a big run up, especially with some heavy suppression over the last couple of months since November. Let's take a look at this posting from micro to macro. So he's posting about CleanSpark. Forward PE ratio 7.81, down 63% from its high 15 months ago, 165% upside just to get back to that previous high, is breaking out from a 5-month downtrend, can pretty easily hit the $30 range this year, roughly 265% higher. If Bitcoin gets nearer to 150,000, could potentially to hit the $50 range if Bitcoin gets towards $200,000 range. So very bullish. So it's all going to be driven from the Bitcoin catalyst. So at 150K, CleanSpark gets to $30. At $200,000, CleanSpark can easily, get to that $50 range. Let's pivot over to technical analysis. So we're looking at the technicals of Bitcoin, where the current price is as of today. Saturday is hovering above 96,000, currently 96,408. Key thing is that we've seen the upward motion since that huge price retracement. We continue to see the price of Bitcoin retrace downward slope since like April. at the end of like April 9th, that's where we saw a reversal in trend where now, the price action is breaking out of that Ichimoku cloud. So we've been seeing that cloud hover above the price action, from like November all the way through April, which really brought down the price. Ichimoku cloud, anytime when the cloud is above the price, that's going to bring that gravitational pull down, drag the price down. But key indicators that we're seeing, we see volume picking up since April 9th. We see that the price action broke through the 50-day moving average, the simple day moving average. And then in green, we see the price action as of April 22 breaking through that 200 SMA, which is a big indicator. And now we're just hovering above the clouds, and now we're out of that gravity phase. And can we very well start seeing Bitcoin break into the prior resistance? First off, getting into the 100K, it'll be interesting to see when we'll get back into that 100K. Can it be today, tomorrow, next week? But it's very likely that we're going to see that happening. And by that point, we're going to see Bitcoin price get off to the races, hover into new all-time high of 150, 200K. Let's say when Bitcoin gets to 150K, 200K, how high will strategy MSTR go? Now, one of the things that I've been covering is that, we demonstrated the breakthrough of the prior resistance that has definitely converted to the new support line, at 340. We're now hovering, at that threshold of $400. We saw MSCR break through that, but it ended the day at 394 with the 3% gain. But now the level two retest resistance will be that 440 range, which we've seen pass on multiple occurrences back in December. When Bitcoin price was, hovering at the higher price point of 100K. So as we get Bitcoin to 100K, I definitely do think that strategy is gonna, hover back into that, $438,000 range. And as we start seeing Bitcoin peak, into the higher 100K range, getting to that prior resistance of 110, we may very well see strategy start, testing that level three resistance where the orange will be the new support. And as soon as Bitcoin gets into that 150, 200K range, we definitely have the potential for seeing 150 around that 750 range for strategy. And then once it breaks to 200K, four digits for strategy stock is very possible. Not saying that it will happen, but it can happen. Let's take a look at the top two Bitcoin HODL companies. So with Mara holding close to 50,000 Bitcoins on their treasury, we've seen some heavy pullbacks with Mara, but where there's big pullbacks, there's going to be big opportunities for a big run up as well. So with that prior run up to like $31, we've seen that happen on multiple occurrences, back in 23, 24, where, price action of Mara hovered $34. And then, July 24, $27, November, $30. So we've seen $30 get hit multiple times in the last years. But as Bitcoin price breaks through new all-time high, where the current price is. At one point, it got down below $10, but now up to, close to $15. That's about a 50% gain from that low top. RSI was hugely oversold. Definitely opportunity to buy low at this time, but I definitely see that there's huge upside with Mara. Let's say if Bitcoin gets to 150, 200K, we may very well see, the run up to like, 50 plus, 50 to 80 plus, with stocks that shoot down this quick. The whole entire mining sector, it could shoot up very quick when Bitcoin just breaks out. We've seen when 2023 came along the way, that's when the mining sector shot up because that's where we saw Bitcoin go from like, 15,000 up to like, 70,000. And that's when the miner sector ramped up very fast. So I definitely do think that Mara has a potential breakout in the near term. We may very well see, it hover back up in the near term, whether it's in 2 weeks, we could easily see this shoot up into like the 18, $20 range. And then soon enough, we'll be seeing Mara hover in the low 20s and then get back into that higher 20 range before we see it appreciate into the $30 upside. But I do see opportunity with the mining sector and with Mara having, close to 50,000 Bitcoin on the treasury, their price appreciation is going to be shown in the balance sheet as well. Let's take a look at CEP stock. So CEP has been making a big run. I mean, 21 Capital, backed by Cantor Fitzgerald, SoftBank, you know, Tether supporting them. There's just so much going on right now, and this puppy has shot up from like the low 12s all the way up to the point of like $60. So this has gone up like over 500%. We're looking at the 15-minute chart. We've seen, overbought situations, with that big candle getting up to $40. We did see some volatility. Relative strength did cool off, but what happened over the course? We continue to see relative strength shoot up. I think, the price right now, it's still in that price discovery phase. And I did, forecast, even when the price was around $18, that it may very well break into that $50 range. And look, we're in that price discovery phase. Not surprised that that happened. We did see a pullback where during Friday it was like at 60 and then it dropped down to like 42, and then there was some buybacks with relative strength picking up, but we see the price action crossing the 50-day moving average with 15-minute candles. It'll be interesting to see how high CEP can go. It all really depends with Bitcoin. Let's say if Bitcoin, goes down the following week, that may drag the price down for CEP. But let's say if Bitcoin breaks into that 100K, that's going to be like a stimulant to really shoot CEP stock up even, above like $70 onward. So it's a really broad spectrum right now. It's hard to assess, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing goes into like the $100 range before the conversion into, the 21 Capital. Right now, it's a low float stock, which is why there's a lot of volatility. But when, it converts to 21 Capital, that's where we get more clarity on the company's MNAV, amount of available shares, but ultimately the amount of shares will be a bigger pool. And at that point, we'll really see where the price lands. But definitely some potential upside. But again, this isn't financial advice. Where there's huge run-ups of like 500%, we could definitely see potential pullbacks as well. Let's take a look at Riot Platforms. So another Bitcoin mining stock. In fact, this company is like top number four HODL right now when you compare to like Strategy, MSTR, Mara, and 21 Capital. So Riot Platforms are close to about 20,000 Bitcoins. Where we are right now, definitely some huge pullback as well, similar to Mara stock from its high point of like close to $16. It dropped all the way down close to $6. Huge shorting happened. But what do we see from like April 21 to May 3rd? We see a big change in a direction. The relative strength is changing, it's increasing. We're also seeing the price action break through the 50-day simple moving average. So now price action breaking out of that zone, showing potential for it to get to the 200-day moving average. So that's going to be a key signal as we see price retest that, getting close to that double digit $10 range, breaking through that 200-day simple moving average. I think a lot of investors, there's going to be much more FOMO coming in, especially with the news around Riot, solid fundamentals with their revenue growth over the Q1 announcement, as well as diversifying into AI HPC, definitely with the land at Corsicana, Rockdale facility. This company is tapping into different areas to bring revenue in over the long-term course. And as a result, there's going to be an increased demand for AI customers to partner with Riot. So they do have a hidden gem facility right now that has about a 1 gigawatt capacity to tap into that AI sector. So I definitely do think that with any news Bitcoin running up, with 20,000 Bitcoins on the balance sheet and any AI customer ink deal, this candle can shoot up significantly, back into that prior resistance and, even into like that mid 20, $30 range in the near term. So it'll be exciting to see whether the candle can, break through this orange tier one. I'm thinking in May, we may very well see it get back to that prior resistance of like $12 and onward. So definitely exciting times, especially seeing this reversal pattern with Riot. Let's take a look at CleanSpark. So CleanSpark, we've seen consistent performance with the other miners. CleanSpark has, a HODL of like close to $12,000, ranked number 5 as a top HODL company right now. Key thing is, it's been hovering in this bull flag, but key thing is it also broke from the 50-day simple moving average. We saw CleanSpark hover above the $9 range, so very well soon enough it's going to get back into that double digit range. Soon enough it'll break through that 200-day moving average. Relative strength is steadily increasing. At one point, we saw that, CleanSpark, what happened? It went from like, $3 to like $24, 800% shoot up, just with that big trajectory. So we haven't seen that type of breakout for a long time now with CleanSpark. Relative strength has been just steadily, in the mid-tier zone, but we may very well have the miners break out as soon as Bitcoin price ramps up to 150K. So, definitely some huge upside. So we heard from micro to macro in that he's forecasting, $50 range, if Bitcoin breaks to 200K. So definitely some huge opportunities. I do think that we're going to see that price action break out of this bull flag very soon. And there's going to be huge FOMO effect kicking in. With all of that, I want to play a quick video clip of Saylor and his forecast of Bitcoin going to 1 million a coin.
Is there a ceiling that MicroStrategy has in mind in terms of how much Bitcoin it can hold, or is it kind of unlimited and really depends on what is happening in the market?
No, we'll just keep buying. Right, the price is going to go up. It's going to get exponentially harder, and the price is going to go up exponentially higher, and we'll just keep buying. And at some point, if we get to 5% of the supply, Bitcoin's probably going to be $1 million a coin. And if we get to 7.5% of the supply, Bitcoin will be 10 million a coin. And then we'll be, if I'm lucky enough to grind to 10% of the supply, Bitcoin's going to be 50 million a coin, and someone will be whining that whatever, we have too much Bitcoin, but other people will have $400 trillion of wealth. So, our view is it's a ratchet, and we're just going to keep cranking on the ratchet, and there's massive leverage here. And I think everybody's winning if we do that.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed another episode here. Let me know what your thoughts are with Bitcoin's price prediction and where you think these top 5 HODL companies are going to be headed as Bitcoin breaks into new all-time high as it reaches above $200,000. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already done so, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Thank you guys.